I was at a event yesterday, and I bumped into a gentleman that is responsible for maintenance inside of his plant. And he was sharing with me how his team does improvements around the building, but it's really hard. They have a very difficult time finding the available time in the day to go make those improvements. And I said, "Why is that?" And he's like, "The typical thing that we're always we're always drug into whatever the fire, the issue of the day is, and we're really not staffed to do improvement." And I said, "When you do improvements, what do you report back to leadership?" And he says, "Usually nothing. We just do the improvements and move on." And I said, "That's the problem. We don't do a cost benefit analysis. We don't document the things that we improve and do the cost benefit analysis that would help management understand what they're getting for that time." I told him, I said, put yourself in the shoes of the leader of that plant, and they're making all these budget decisions. How do they decide where to put funding? If they don't see a return on that investment in the maintenance team, then yeah, they're not going to put enough budget in there. It's going to be seen as a cost center. And you're not going to have the budget to continuously improve the different processes, operations in the plant as a maintenance team. You're not going to have the time, the budget to create the space that you need to do those things. So I told him that, and I thought, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about cost benefit analysis and some of the challenges. So I think people avoid it because it is a little bit challenging. And so maybe the first thing, so here's what I'd say. First off is that there's a lot to talk about in cost benefit analysis. And the point is not to scare you, but to make sure that you take it with the right amount of thoughtfulness, so that when you put a good number together, it's believable. Our process is simple. Identify what has changed on both sides, right? And this is the thing that I find people make mistakes on, right? When we say cost, we mean new costs. Okay, so that process that we're improving already had some existing costs within it. We're not really interested in that. We're interested in what were the costs to make the change? Did we buy a new piece of equipment? Did we have to hire somebody new? Did we add a new step in the process that took more time? And this is where you have to talk with your company. This is can be a little philosophical, which is, and how much time did you spend or did the team spend to come up with these ideas? That may also need to be on the cost side. But the cost side is identifying those things that have changed that have increased cost. The benefit side is also identifying those things that changed but have reduced the cost. So if we were running the production line with 10 people, if it took, 35 clicks to put in the order and we've cut those by 10% or 30% or something along those lines, I can translate that into a savings. I just have to first identify those changes, inventory changes, transportation changes, any kind of changes. I want to know what has happened when I made that improvement, and then I want to quantify it. And again, this is a challenging piece where I have to think about, okay, well, what's a cost per hour in our building? Uh, if I saved space, is there a cost per square foot? I'm going to have to come up with those numbers so that I can quantify those changes and start to build out my impact, right? And so that's the next piece, which is the financial impact. I summarize the costs, I summarize the benefits, okay? And then I put those all together. Now, the last piece, possibly the most important. Why? Because a few things happen, right? One, sometimes it's just hard to get the right numbers. So I need to work with a accountant, a financial controller, someone who has access to the data, then can help verify my numbers. Two, I've seen plenty of teams get overly exuberant about what they've really saved. In fact, back in my Motorola days, I think one of the challenges we had, we would do these total quality management projects. And people would show like millions and millions of dollars of savings. And it's like, what did you do? Well, we increased customer sat from, 93% to 95%. And we've decided that that means this much revenue. And Are you sure? Right? And how can you even segment out your one project against all the other things that might have gone on to improve customer sat or improve revenue? So you have to be careful with that. And if you work with a finance controller, they're going to really test you. They're going to test you out and make sure that you've really thought through it. Now, when we do this in our CI Mastermind program, and we teach this both in CI Mastermind and we teach it in Lunch and Learn because it is just that important. Uh, we we utilize our CI Mastermind tool. Now that creates an output like what you're seeing on the screen here. And why this is important is you want something that you can take to finance that they can follow and understand. It makes sense in their world, right? They don't live necessarily in the operations world of, what's physically happening on the floor. They live in a world of line items and costs, right? So we go identify what's changed. This is actually comes right out of our Lunch and Learn program. Facility space, materials, labor hours, more labor hours for different things, right? Are these reoccurring or non-reoccurring? What you'll find typically is on the cost side, usually those are non-reoccurring costs related to the project, okay? What was the rate? What was the quantity? I'm not gonna get into modifier. All I'm gonna tell you is we use those numbers to produce a total, and then we total up what the costs are. And that's what we're going to review with our finance person. We're also going to review the benefits. And again, we're going to say what changed? Well, the number of hours doing rework and freight and the amount of material that we have to return and some additional labor hours of processing the return. Oh, guess what? Those are reoccurring. This is the power, frankly, of continuous improvement. We take non-reoccurring time, okay, or non-reoccurring activities, yeah, to fix something that is reoccurring in the operation. So we may have spent a lot of time getting the fix in, but we get the benefit of that over and over and over repeated for potentially years. And that's why when you think about continuous improvement and you kind of see the line between, no continuous improvement and continuous improvement, they spread apart slowly over time. It's because you're finding all these little things that improve and you get to take the advantage of that over time. And you start to beat your competitors on just these marginal improvements. So anyways, you do the same thing. What's the rate? What's the quantity? So on and so forth. And you come up with your savings, your benefits, right? Then you subtract your benefits from your costs. And you should have two things. You should have a first period, which would be anything non-reoccurring from a cost perspective, anything non-reoccurring from a benefit perspective, because that does happen too. And then you have your every period afterwards. Now your company may say, hey, I only care about the first year. They may say, hey, we care about 5 years, but you need to do a net present value analysis to tell me what that's worth right now. Okay, those are all doable. Again, why? That's the reason why I make sure we work with the finance team. But the point is that you want to get this documented. You want to get this communicated. You want to promote it. And that is what's going to allow you to build the credibility for your continuous improvement efforts that makes the company want to invest in them more. We did this very successfully at multiple companies, very successfully at Motorola. They actually put more money into our Six Sigma programming when we started to report out in a formal way how much money the company was saving every year on Six Sigma. The CFO got all over it and on board it. It was pretty awesome. So, anyways, I'd be interested to hear your advice on helping people get through cost benefit analysis, wins that you've had utilizing cost benefit analysis. Drop it in the comments of this post and tell me more. Thanks.